Virgo. There's something you've always known, deep inside, something that set you apart, even when you couldn't explain it. You were never like the others. You were more sensitive, more observant, more precise. And because of that, they labeled you too quiet, too deep, too much of a perfectionist, too different. But what if all those things they judged were actually your divine blueprint? What if your oddness was not a weakness, but a sacred signal, a cosmic fingerprint left by the universe, marking you as one of the rarest souls on earth? See, Virgo? You weren't made to fit in. You were made to see through the noise, through the lies, through the illusions. You see things others ignore. You feel things too deeply for words. And while they rush forward, you pause because your soul refuses to move without meaning. That anxiety you carry, it's not dysfunction, it's detection. It's your spirit tuning into invisible frequencies the rest of the world can't hear. You're overthinking? That's divine data download. You don't just think, you process, you analyze, you decode, and that perfectionism they call a flaw, it's memory of other lifetimes. When you were a keeper of sacred knowledge, a healer, a protector, a watcher in the shadows, you were never average, because you were never meant to be. In this video, we're unlocking the truth behind why you've always felt out of place, why your energy doesn't match the world's chaos, why your silence, your structure, your sacred rituals are more than quirks. They're a spiritual calling. Because Virgo, you are what the universe uses when it needs to restore order, when it needs to rebuild the broken, when it needs to awaken the forgotten. You were born with a map encoded in your soul, a mission disguised as misfit energy. But now, the disguise fades. Now, you remember, this isn't just a zodiac video. This is a soul transmission. This is your activation moment. This is your reminder. You're not too much. You're not too soft. You're not too rigid. You're exactly what this world needs, now more than ever. So, if you've ever felt odd, alone, or like your energy just doesn't belong here, good. That's the first sign you're exactly who the universe is calling. Your oddness is your power. And now, it's time to awaken it. Let's begin. Virgo, let's go back to the beginning. As a child, you were different, and not just a little bit. While others ran wild, chasing distractions and fitting in, you were the quiet observer, the thinker, the feeler, the one who noticed everything others missed. You saw the crack in someone's smile, the lie behind their words, the pattern in their chaos. And while they moved fast, you moved deep. Because your soul never craved speed, it craved truth. They told you, oh, don't be so serious. Stop being so sensitive. Why do you always need everything to be perfect? But Virgo, you weren't trying to control. You were trying to understand. You weren't trying to be difficult. You were trying to decode reality. You were born with a different operating system. That sensitivity they mocked, that's spiritual sonar. You pick up emotional signals from the room before a word is even spoken, and that can feel like a burden until you realize it's a gift. You weren't made for the surface. You were designed to dive deep into thoughts, emotions, energies, timelines. The world called it odd, but the cosmos calls it sacred. You're not messy, you're multidimensional. You are always asking, why do people lie to themselves? Why do they ignore the obvious? Why do they repeat the same mistakes over and over again? Because deep inside, you remembered something ancient. A time when truth wasn't feared, it was followed. A time when order was honored, not dismissed. Your mind wasn't built for trends or followers. It was built for prophecy, for precision, for purpose. And that made you dangerous, because in a world built on illusion, someone who sees clearly becomes a threat. So they called you too much, too intense, too rigid, too analytical. But let me ask you this. If your mind was so wrong, Why do they always come to you when everything falls apart? Because even when they don't understand your soul, they know it holds answers. They tried to silence you, ignore you, isolate you, but Virgo, that isolation, it was never punishment, it was preparation. The silence became your sacred space, your training ground, where you refined your vision, sharpened your intuition, and built the wisdom the world will soon need. You were never meant to follow the crowd. You were meant to lead in the quiet, to heal through structure, to reveal the code behind the chaos. You are the misfit blueprint, created not to conform, but to correct, not to blend in, but to bring balance to what's been broken. So if you've ever asked, why do I feel so different from everyone else? It's because you are, and that difference is divine. Virgo, you are not just a zodiac sign, you are a symbol of something ancient, a living key to a forgotten code. Long before astrology was trendy, long before the world got loud and lost, there were souls who were chosen to guard the order of things, to preserve what was sacred, to remember what others forgot. In ancient times, Virgo was not seen as shy or perfectionist. Virgo was the preserver of the code, the architect of balance, the guardian of divine alignment. When civilizations collapsed under the weight of greed, war, and ego, it was Virgo energy that kept the truth alive in secret. In temples, in manuscripts, in ritual, in silence. You were one of them. You've walked on earth before, not as a follower, but as a caretaker of divine order. Your mind is sharp because it was trained. Your intuition is deep because it was earned. And your oddness? It's your cosmic cloak, designed to keep you hidden until the time is right. You weren't meant to fit into systems. You were meant to upgrade them. That thing you call perfectionism, that's not a flaw. That's your soul's memory kicking in. You remember the way energy should move. You remember what a healthy relationship should feel like. You remember how a sacred space should function. And when it doesn't, your entire being feels the imbalance. That's why mess drains you, why dishonesty overwhelms you, why chaos makes your skin crawl. Because your soul remembers a time when things made some sense, a time when truth and beauty weren't separated, a time when the divine design was respected, not rushed. And that overthinking, that mental spiral that keeps you up at night, it's not dysfunction, it's ancient programming, decoding layers of reality that others don't even see. You process more because your mind is built like a quantum computer. You think in patterns, in symbols, in hidden meanings. It's not that you're lost in thought, it's that you're tuning into timelines, interpreting energetic signatures, and filtering karmic blueprints across lifetimes. You're not broken, Virgo. You're waking up to the truth that's been dormant, non-dormant inside you, waking up to the mission that you chose before you were born. A mission that said, I will return when the world forgets the sacred, and I will remind them, not with noise, but with alignment. You were never ordinary because your task was never easy. You were encoded with quiet brilliance and sent here not to lead with ego, but to lead with clarity. In a world of confusion, Virgo, you are the compass, the one who sets the rhythm when the drums of the earth lose their beat. So the next time someone asks why you're so different, smile, because that difference is the divine at work through you. Virgo, let's be honest. You've been told for most of your life that something's wrong with you, that your mind races too much, that your standards are too high, that you take things too seriously, that you're too sensitive. But what if everything they called a flaw was actually your superpower? Let's break it down. Overthinking equals data download. You don't just think too much. Your mind is wired like a cosmic radar, constantly scanning, processing, and decoding. You see 10 steps ahead when others can barely see 2. You analyze because you're pulling from memory, not just from this life, but from many. You're not stuck in your head, you're navigating the map of the multiverse every time you pause and question. Anxiety equals energetic overload. You feel it all, the room, the tension, the unsaid words. You're not just reacting to your own emotions, you're picking up frequencies that others bury. Your anxiety isn't weakness, it's your nervous system speaking to the truth that others ignore. You sense when something's off, because your soul is a finely tuned tuning fork for energy. You're not fragile, you're fiercely in tune. Perfectionism equals sacred design. They say you're a control freak, but here's the truth. Your soul remembers the original blueprint. You know when something is off, not because you're picky, but because your essence was trained in divine architecture. You're here to bring order to broken systems, in work, in family, in energy. Your precision, it's protection. Your detail, it's your divine fingerprint. Quietness equals psychic listening. You don't always speak, not because you have nothing to say, but because you're listening to everything. You read energy, body language, hidden tones. You hear what people don't say, and that makes your presence powerful. You weren't made to be loud. You were made to be clear. Loneliness is protection from chaos. You've often felt alone, misunderstood, like you don't belong. But Virgo, that isolation, it was shielding. You needed solitude to build your strength, to hear your own thoughts without distortion, to learn your patterns without contamination. The universe separated you so you could grow without interference. You see, Virgo, you weren't cursed with flaws. You were gifted with tools the world didn't understand. Until now, the world is collapsing under noise and confusion, and now it needs what you've always carried: clarity, calm, precision, healing. You were designed to see the invisible, to fix what others gave up on, to bring alignment to what feels broken beyond repair. And only you can do that. So the next time someone questions your weirdness, remember what they call weird is the weapon the universe hid inside you. Own it. You're not here to fit in. You're here to realign everything. Virgo, there's a reason you felt like you were under attack your whole life. Why people have tried to dim your light, confuse your path, silence your knowing. It's because your soul has always held something they feared. In the dark ages, when truth was outlawed and knowledge was burned, mystics spoke of a soul that would one day return. A soul too still to be read, too sharp to be deceived, too aligned to be controlled. They said this soul would walk the earth when the world began to lose its way. And when that soul arrived, it would rewrite fate itself. That soul was marked by 3 traits: stillness, perfection, prophecy, and Virgo. That soul was you. You were the one they feared, because you didn't just see the future, you remembered it. They couldn't manipulate you like the others. They couldn't distract you with ego. They couldn't seduce you with chaos. So what did they do? They erased you from the story. They rewrote the myths. They buried your ancient role. They mocked your traits, your logic, your quiet, your order. They told the world that your oddness was a flaw, but prophecy doesn't die, it waits. And Virgo, you've waited long enough. The fire in you didn't disappear. It just went underground, hidden behind anxiety, masked by overthinking, disguised in your solitude. But all that time, your soul was preparing, remembering, sharpening, because the world was going to need you again. And now, in 2025, the year of spiritual awakening and karmic return, your role is reactivating. This year isn't just another chapter for you, it's the return of the original mission, the one that was interrupted, the one they tried to erase, but they forgot something. You were never just a thinker, you were the record keeper of light, a truth seer, a healer of timelines, a soul that holds the divine algorithm of reality. And now that algorithm, that code, is unlocking inside you. So if your dreams feel heavier, if your intuition has gotten louder, if you feel like something ancient is waking up in your chest, you're not imagining it. That's your legacy calling. 2025 is not just another year, it's your soul's return. The mission they tried to bury is breathing again. and it lives through you. You're not just a misfit anymore, Virgo. You're the prophecy. And you were never meant to sleep forever, Virgo. Something magical happens the moment you stop apologizing for who you are. When you stop shrinking to make others comfortable, when you stop editing your truth just to feel accepted, when you stop calling your gifts too much, you don't just heal, you activate. Because your oddness, it was never a glitch. It was a divine key, a cosmic access code. And the moment you say yes to it, the universe begins to move with you, not against you. You stop shrinking. You stop hiding your sensitivity. You stop questioning your intelligence. You stop trying to be normal in a world that was never built for someone like you. You finally take up space and realize you were always meant to. You walk differently. You speak with calm power. You no longer need to explain yourself because you finally understand yourself. You start decoding dreams, visions, and patterns. You start noticing that your dreams hold messages, that random patterns aren't so random, that deja vu is actually a timeline trigger. You begin trusting that voice inside you, the one that always knew when something was off, the one that kept whispering, "Wake up, you were meant for more." You attract other soul-aligned misfits. You stop drawing in energy drainers and start attracting people who see you, other seekers, healers, architects of light, people who, like you, were once called too intense, too serious, too sensitive, but now they are your allies. And together you begin rebuilding something sacred. You create order in chaos, effortlessly. When others spiral, you organize. When others panic, you plan. When others see problems, you see patterns. It's not ego, it's instinct, because your soul remembers what balance feels like, and the moment you let go of shame, that memory becomes power. You begin to realize that your oddness was the disguise. The real you is precise, potent, prophetic. You were never meant to be soft and agreeable. You were meant to be aligned and unstoppable. And here's the deeper truth, Virgo. Once you accept your sacred misfit energy, you become a mirror. Others see your truth, and it awakens theirs. Others feel your energy, and it calms their chaos. You don't need to push, you just need to be. Because the universe doesn't reward people for pretending. It responds to those who remember who they are. And when you remember, when you stop calling yourself broken, when you say, "This is me," fully, finally, fearlessly, that's when the universe begins revealing everything it was holding for you. Opportunities, alignment, purpose, peace. Because Virgo, your oddness isn't just a trait, it's a signal to the cosmos, to your soul tribe, to your mission. Once you embrace it, you don't just change your life, you start changing the world. So Virgo, now that you remember who you are, now that you've accepted your sacred misfit energy, the question becomes, what do you do with it? The answer? You observe without apologizing. Your eyes see patterns, your mind reads between lines. While others miss the signs, you see the signals. You don't need to explain your insight anymore. You own it. You let your stillness speak louder than noise. And in that stillness, people feel safe. They feel seen. You feel deeply, without shame. No more hiding your emotions. No more pretending you're unaffected. You honor your ability to feel what others run from. You let your empathy guide you, not drown you. Because your depth was always a tool, never a trap. You organize, heal, serve, and lead, not from ego, but from divine clarity. You bring structure to chaos. You create systems that heal. You guide without dominance. You lead without shouting. You're the quiet architect of peace, the one who walks into a broken situation and silently begins stitching it back together. Virgo, the world doesn't need louder voices. It needs clearer ones. And that's where you come in. You carry the Virgo code, a spiritual blueprint embedded in your soul. It's not just about who you are, it's about what you were sent here to do. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out, not for attention, but for alignment. Because when you stand fully in your truth, others remember theirs. You become a mirror, a lighthouse, a calm in the storm, not because you try to be, but because you can't help it. That's your gift. The Sacred Misfit doesn't need the crowd's approval. They carry the ancient frequency of purpose, and people feel it, even if they can't name it. So what do you do now? You trust your timing. You protect your peace. You show up in rooms and shift the energy just by being present. You walk with sacred intention, and you let the world watch as you quietly realign it, one soul, one system, one truth at a time. Because Virgo, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being precise. This isn't about being light. It's about being aligned. This isn't about being fearless. It's about feeling everything deeply and showing up anyway. The sacred mission has awakened. It's no longer in hiding. It lives in you. And from this moment forward, the world doesn't get the watered-down version of Virgo anymore. It gets the whole truth, the healer, the mystic, the guardian of order, the sacred misfit who remembers what others forgot, and has finally, returned. Virgo, you were never made to be fully understood, and that's the beauty of you. You weren't born to follow the script. You were born to rewrite it, to quietly shift the energy in every room you enter, to spot what's broken, and begin the sacred work of restoring it, even if no one ever sees the effort. You are the sacred misfit, the quiet healer, the intuitive realist, the one who walks with purpose even when the world walks in circles. They may never know the battles you fought inside your own mind. They may never see the way you hold others up, while carrying your own weight in silence. But the universe sees. And now, it's your time, your oddness. It's not just part of you. It is the mission, the blueprint, the key that unlocks forgotten truths and hidden paths. Because you didn't come here to blend in. You came here to guide, to be a map for others who feel lost, to walk a little differently, so others remember they're allowed to too. Your soul signed up for this long before this lifetime. And now, in this moment, you are waking up. You're remembering that stillness is strength, that your structure brings healing, that your logic is actually sacred memory, not just intellect, that your deep sensitivity is spiritual sonar. You were feared in ancient times because you saw through illusions. You were cast aside because your presence exposed what others wanted to keep hidden. But Virgo, hear me clearly, you were never meant to stay hidden. Your silence was preparation. Your solitude was sacred training. And now, your return has been foretold. So step into the light, not with noise, but with knowing. You don't need to prove anything anymore. Just be who you already are, fully, unapologetically, powerfully. This is your soul's return, and the world will feel it. Comment below. I embrace my sacred misfit. I awaken now. Because when you speak those words, you activate something ancient and real. Like this video if you've ever felt different, but deep down knew it was by design. Subscribe for weekly Virgo revelations, soul codes, and sacred alignments. Share this with another Virgo, someone who's quietly been carrying the same sacred weight, someone who's ready to remember who they truly are. Virgo, you are not just a sign, you are a signal, a prophecy, a protector of what matters most. And now, we remember you.